All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a story that's just wild. We're talking mysterious lights, strange ships in the sky, and a full-blown national obsession that gripped America way before anyone had even heard the words flying saucer. Nowadays, when we see a drone or a weird balloon, it makes the news for a bit. But that whole thing, looking up at the sky and wondering, what is that? That's not new. It's actually a really old American tradition. So what was the biggest UFO flap in American history? Well, to answer that, we've got to jump in our time machine and head all the way back to the 1890s. This was a time when the world was changing so fast it would make your head spin. Okay, so before we get to the sightings themselves, we really need to set the scene. You have to understand what the world felt like back then. The late 19th century, this was a period of absolutely mind-blowing technological change. A time when things that were pure fantasy yesterday were suddenly becoming reality. Think about it. You had electric lights literally turning night into day. The first clunky automobiles were starting to appear on the streets. People were talking about sending messages through the air with radio. Everything was changing. We're talking massive bridges, sprawling rail networks, skyscrapers starting to poke the clouds. The public's imagination wasn't just sparked, it was on fire. And here's where it gets really interesting. Popular fiction was right there, running alongside all this real-world invention. You had actual pioneers building these early, kind of rickety steam and electric-powered airships. At the same time, dime novels about secret inventors and anti-gravity spaceships were flying off the shelves. It basically prepped everyone to believe that human flight wasn't just a dream, it was right around the corner. It had to be. So, it's in this amazing environment of wonder and expectation that our story really kicks off. And it all starts in the skies over Sacramento, November 1896. So the first big report comes in. Hundreds of people in Sacramento see this thing. They said it looked like an electric arc lamp. Like the street lights they had back then, but it was moving through the sky all unevenly. It was rising and dipping, almost like it was trying to dodge buildings. Super weird. And this is where the story goes from weird light to something else entirely. People didn't just see it, they swore they could hear human voices, even laughter, coming from this thing in the sky. Some witnesses reported hearing whole conversations, stuff like, well, we have to get to San Francisco by tomorrow noon. Can you imagine? So what exactly did they see? Well, the descriptions were all over the place, often contradicting each other. But a few things kept popping up. A really powerful bright white light, kind of like a train's headlamp. A dark cigar-shaped body behind the light, and maybe the strangest detail of all, it was sailing against the wind. That right there told everyone it wasn't just some runaway balloon. This was something different, and the story just exploded across California. Right, so what started as a local curiosity in California, it was about to go viral, 1890s style, and become a full-blown national obsession. Over the next few months, you can literally watch the sightings spread across the country like a wave moving east. First, it hits Nebraska, then Kansas in the Midwest. Then it dips down into Texas and rolls all the way to Chicago. Newspapers in every state were jumping on the story, reporting their own encounters with this mysterious airship. And I need you to understand the sheer scale of this thing. We're not talking about a couple of random reports. This was one of the biggest mass sightings in history. We're talking thousands of reports from hundreds of thousands of witnesses. And these weren't just random people. We're talking farmers, blacksmiths, mayors, even state governors. Everybody was seeing it. But you know how these things go. As the sightings piled up, the stories started getting, well, a little wild. They began to blur the line between what people were actually seeing and just plain old tall tales. You can't talk about this without talking about the newspapers. This was the era of yellow journalism, with guys like William Randolph Hearst running the show. And they absolutely fanned the flames. A reporter would hear about a bright light over a field, and the next day's headline would be, "Inventor tests secret aerial destroyer." They knew a good story when they saw one, and they were happy to embellish it to sell papers, especially with talk of war with Spain brewing. Okay, the most famous story of them all has to be the Aurora, Texas crash. The local paper ran this incredible story about an airship crashing into a judge's windmill. The pilot, not of this world, and they supposedly gave this Martian a Christian burial in the town cemetery. It's an amazing story. The problem? It was almost certainly a complete hoax. Later on, people figured out the town's blacksmith probably just made it up. And get this, locals admitted the judge never even had a windmill. It was all just a wild publicity stunt to try and save their dying town. And to really get the vibe of the time, you have to know about something called the Liars Club. Seriously, these were actual social clubs back then, where guys would just get together and compete to tell the most outrageous, unbelievable story they could think of. You know that other famous tale from Kansas, the one about the airship snatching a cow? Yeah, that was invented by a stock trader and his buddies at their local Liars Club meeting. It was all just a big joke. Okay, so we've got real sightings, we've got newspaper hype, we've got total hoaxes from liars clubs. It's a mess. So how did this massive nationwide craze finally just fizzle out? Well, the end came pretty fast, and it came from the top. Someone apparently sent a letter to Thomas Edison, supposedly from the airship's inventor. So the press asked Edison what he thought about it all. And Edison, this guy was the biggest inventor on the planet, he just publicly shot the whole thing down. He called it absurd and basically said that even if they were real, these airships would just be toys. He wasn't interested. And honestly, Edison's comments were like pouring a giant bucket of ice water on the whole country's excitement. Almost overnight, the sightings just stopped appearing in the headlines. The entire crazy episode just vanished from public memory. It was basically forgotten for more than 50 years until UFO researchers in the modern era dug the stories back up. So that leaves us with the big question, right? Yeah, a lot of the stories were definitely fakes, but can you really dismiss thousands of sightings from credible, sober people so easily? What do you think was in the sky? The reason this whole story matters so much is that it shows us that our fascination with weird stuff in the sky, it's nothing new. This is a part of the American story that goes way, way back, long before Roswell. It's a true American mystery that, honestly, still endures today.